Hello and welcome. Things are hotting up once again on the India-UK business corridor, more so with an exciting British Business Group convention coming up. 1 year has passed since the last one. Joining me now to talk more about it is former Deputy High Commissioner to India, Mark Runacres, who's spearheading this effort this year. Mark, thank you very much for speaking with us. So a year has passed since the last convention. So what have been the most significant changes from your vantage point?
Well, I think there are several very significant changes since last year's convention. Of course, the one that's etched in everybody's mind is the arrival of a new government in India. Let's not dwell on the difficulties which the economy was facing in the last few years, and let's say that now we're looking at a real big economic upturn here in India, and I think it's therefore very propitious for us to be here as the United Kingdom with a strong British business presence to make sure that we're taking full advantage of that. And on the other side, of course, we have seen real revival in the British economy over that period. And I do think now is the time, if we are going to see a real surge in interest in the Indo-British business corridor.
Right. What are the specific areas that you are seeing interest at this point of time, and what's the kind of work that's going on to ensure that it all it comes together and builds further?
I think the key interests are really in these big areas of priority which Mr. Modi has identified: in manufacturing, in the finance required for infrastructure, in infrastructure development itself, in skilling, really in education as well as skilling. I think it's fair to say, if you look through the list of priorities for this Modi government, these are precisely the areas where the UK has a very strong offering. And as for the work that's being done, well, obviously we have been mounting the preparations for this convention, which is going to be the biggest convention of its sort, and which is this year bringing a significant number of companies over from the UK for the very purpose of seeing what the opportunities are now in the new era. The work that's been going on the government side is, of course, been extraordinarily intense, with a series of very senior ministerial delegations coming over, and let's hope that all of that comes together to bear fruit.
Right. There's been a lot of work, and I think you've spoken of it in the past as well, on the medium and small and medium enterprise front. Any instances from there, or any highlights from what's been happening on that front, or is likely to happen this time around?
I think the key point here, Govind, is that we really, for the small and medium-sized companies, need now to see the new government live up to its promises to make India an easier place to do business. I've got a lot of smaller companies coming out to the convention, and I think that they will be looking to see exactly what is being set out by the government as a transformational process to make entry easier for them. And those companies cover a wide range of British strengths, all the way from skills to technology and innovation, to engineering consultants, to people interested in the retail field. There remains a very, very strong interest from the British medium-sized sector. But experience shows that for that really to translate into business, the environment here needs to become easier to do business in. As it happens, this year, the Confederation of Indian Industry has very helpfully organized their Global SME Summit to fall precisely the 2 days before the British Business Group convention, so that smaller and medium-sized British businesses who are attending that convention can join in with that global summit, and let's hope that that also leads to some progress.
Right. We had the whole Make in India initiative that was launched by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, does this offer any fresh or additional opportunity for British companies or manufacturing companies in Britain in specific? And what are your thoughts on this whole initiative and what it could do?
I think it does offer new opportunities. I think there's an enormous opportunity for the world in the Make in India initiative. It will, of course, in the end come down to transforming the environment here to one which is quality-centered sufficiently to make people confident, both to manufacture here and, of course, to export from here once they've manufactured. I think that it has caught people's attention. The launch was, of course, very striking, and Mr. Modi, having taken it on himself specifically, I think really meant that it caught the headlines. One of our sector focuses at the convention is indeed manufacturing, and I'm seeing very, very strong take-up from the delegates for that. So I think there is a strong interest. I think for British companies, of course, manufacturing is still a great British strength, contrary to rumours that British manufacturing died a couple of decades ago. We've got tremendous strengths in that side, both in heavier engineering like auto engineering, and we're seeing a strong presence in that, and that's the area that the manufacturing sector session will focus on, but also in more innovative engineering, lighter engineering, for instance, in the healthcare side, in consumer goods. So yes, I mean, I think it would be terrific, but as I say, the key is going to be creating quality in India, and nothing will do that better than foreign companies coming in and bringing with them their technology and know-how.
Right. How do you, or rather, what would you say are the pending issues? I mean, issues mostly either on the policy front or on the regulatory front, which, from your mind, need to be resolved, or at least there has to be a path to show resolution? Yes,
that's an extremely good question, Govind, if I might say. I think that this is really the nub of the discussion that is now underway. I think we've heard a lot of expressions of intent to make India a better place to do business. We've seen a lot of aspiration about changes to the regulatory and policy framework. And thus far, people have said, early days, we've got to wait for that menu to be rolled out. These are not easy issues. But I think that really in the coming 3 or 4 months, we're going to need to see some genuinely practical moves to make a difference, rather than to just talk about making a difference. And I think that those range all the way from the very high level issues like obviously taxation, right through to the question of day-to-day bureaucracy, the number of clearances you need, the number of clearances that you need for manufacturing, and indeed, and I can say this, having tried to organize a business conference here in Delhi and engage with the Indian government just to make the Indian government more accessible for foreign businesses.
Right. Mark, you've been coming to India, and you've been associated with India for many years now. If you were to look back, how do you define this moment in contrast with all the time that you've spent here? And finally, how do you look at the year 2015, or what is left of 2014 and 2015 as you look ahead?
Right. I think that in business terms, of the many years that I've spent dealing with India, the past has largely been a past defined by potential. Everybody's been very clear that there's enormous potential in the Indian marketplace. This now is the time of opportunity. This is the opportunity to translate that potential into real business. And 2015, I believe, really will be a watershed year if this government is able to deliver on what it is that it's talking about on its business agenda. Then we will see that potential translate into opportunity. If it doesn't, then I think before long, not just overseas business, but domestic business in India will begin to wonder whether it isn't just more of the same.
Right, Mark. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Not at all. My pleasure.